Hello and welcome to Vinsloev Academy. This is part 2 in our SQL injection tutorial here on Vinsloev Academy. In this part 2 we'll look at database basics before we move on and look at actual SQL injections. So for those of you who already know what a database is and have been using them before, you might skip this lecture, but for those of you who are new to the concept of databases, I highly recommend you to watch this in order to understand what will happen in the next few lectures. So, what is a database? We have several types of database that are currently being used and is widely used within applications, and two of the most popular is probably relational databases and NoSQL databases. Relational databases is based on what is called tables, which we'll look at in the next slide, whereas NoSQL databases is more like structured like documents. And NoSQL does not stand for no SQL, it stands for not only SQL, because you can use other languages as well. So we will be focusing in this lecture entirely on relational databases. So before we move on and look at an actual database and some basic commands, it's important to understand the concept. So when you're looking at a relational database, you can think of it as a table, which is what is actually called when you have one. So you will have a table which have different columns and different rows. So for example, here you have a column named ID, first name, last name, and subscriber. And then you can fill in rows to these columns. So for example, the first row is our ID1. His first name is Tim, last name Paul, and he has a Y for a subscriber, meaning a true value. Then we have a second row, which is the ID of 2. His first name is Arne, and his last name is Thompson, and he has a no, compared to the user 1 who has a yes. So this is two different rows containing information about users, and this could be users in any user-based system like Facebook or YouTube or whatever system where you log in. The company is storing data like this. So what we will be looking at now is some basic commands to return these data, because when you log into a page, the web application is executing a query in order for it to return the data for your profile such that it can display it to you online on the web. So we will head over to MySQL and look at some basic commands. So we are now over in MySQL workbench, which is the application that I'm going to use to manipulate and show you how database works and some basic commands. So I have made a table called student info, which have the information we just saw on the slide. So we have person ID 1, last name Paul, first name Tim, 1 as the true value for subscriber. Then we have person 2, last name Thompson, first name Arne, and 0 for false value of subscriber. So since I'm seeing this is because I've used this SQL statement select star from student info. Star means everything. So select all from this table is what we are returning now. So we have these two values. I can also change this. For example, I can say select all from student info where person ID equals 1, and if I execute this, I will only see the information of the first row because that is the only one who have person ID 1. So this is most likely a unique ID, and that is common for databases to have a unique primary key in the first column for the ID. So this is typically what is happening on a web application. So when you log in, it will use a statement similar to this. Maybe it will not return all of it, but maybe it will say return first name if you are just in need of getting your name displayed on the top corner of the page, and then it will just return this single value. So the way that people are going to manipulate this is to get more return than is actually shown right here. And that is why we see that we have the star for select all, and then people can start to manipulate this, which we will see in future lectures when we are getting into actual SQL injection. So this is the select statement. It basically just select a given context of data that we are choosing based on different parameters such as select all, or where a given value is set to a certain value. So besides the select, we have the union. So we could, for example, say select first name again from student info, and then we can say union, and then we can say select password from, let's see what it is called. We have another table as well, so we will just see if we update this students, and we have student password. So we will just say select all from student password, and like this. So what this is going to do is utilizing two select statements and combined the values of two different tables. So if I execute this, you now see that I'm selecting all the first names from my student info, and afterwards I'm getting the password which is written in the table called student password. So now I have Tim, Arn, then I have the password for Tim and the password for Arn. So this is the union command, which we will also learn about when we are going to discuss union SQL injection. So here we can add this on top of a regular statement and then maybe get more information returned than the developers actually intended. So this was the union, and then we will have the last one. Then we have the drop command, so we can say drop table, and then we can say student info, and as we see right here, we have the student info. So if I execute this, so now the student info just disappeared. So that basically made us delete the entire table with all the information within, and that is also a powerful command that we see some hackers use to just make havoc in a given web application. So this is 3 common statements that you will learn a lot more about when we get into the different SQL injections. So remember, we have the select, we have the union, and we have the drop. So now we are ready to move on. See you in the next lecture.